Welcome to Radiant Health, how to create health from the inside out. I'm so excited to have you here today, and I'm glad that you were able to find some time to sit back and take this all in. You never know, today you might just hear what you need to hear. And you might have noticed I did not say that I am the host today. The tables are actually getting turned on me, and the lovely Anna Urrea is going to be our host. And so I am going to turn it over to Anna.
Wow, Laurie, thank you so much. This is such a treat for me to be able to do this with you. And I am going to express my personal deep appreciation for the opportunities that you've created by creating this summit with the absolutely radiant and delightful title of Creating Radiant Health from the Inside Out.
Oh.
And so you today have agreed to give us some wisdom about releasing resentment so that you can create radiant health. And I'm so grateful because it's something that I want to learn. And I know that there's many viewers who will be appreciating whatever you can offer to us.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, Anna, for talking, to me about doing this. I admit it's completely out of my comfort zone being on this side. And I won't lie, I'm a little nervous, but yeah, I'm so glad to be here.
So this is modeling about being out of your comfort zone. And that is a great model. I actually think that we need to see models that are doing what we read about and see them in their vulnerability. And that's actually more deeply what I want to appreciate about you today. So it's just showing up in your vulnerability. And you're also showing up in your power, because as a business owner for the last 17 years, I want to tell you a little bit about Laurie. She found her calling to serve others and helps them live the life that they were meant to live. She ran her family's business in the male-dominated auto industry, built her business as a personal trainer, and then built a skincare business helping women with their skin while mentoring, coaching business partners in the business. It is during this time that she felt inspired to create this summit to bring together the health and wellness professionals, all of us, to help others break through their blocks and live an abundant, radiant, and healthy life. That is very powerful, a lot of experience. And I'm so grateful that you're willing to talk with us today about what that has brought you to today, being the woman that you are.
Thank you. It is my pleasure.
So in the tradition, can you tell us, what does radiant health actually mean to you?
I will. So I've heard so many wonderful descriptions throughout this summit of radiant health. And I definitely think that radiant health has a lot to do with physical health and skin hygiene. But for me, I really do believe that it starts inside, and that feeling of value, having that self-worth and that belief in yourself. And I believe if you have that confidence, then it can just absolutely radiate out. And then I feel like that is what's going to help you attain the physical health, the skin, because I feel like physical health and good skin is slightly different, slightly separate. So I think, and both are very important, but I definitely think that just having that value of yourself, knowing what your value is, what your worth is, and believing in yourself is so important to radiant health. I believe it begins there and then it just radiates out.
Wow, so you've kind of named the building blocks, the foundational pieces, and then the other pieces that are supplementary and that augment and supplement that basic foundation.
Yes, I really do. I just have such a strong feeling that it just, it starts in here. It starts in here, and with mindset, but that to get to that positive, healthy mindset, you just have to know your value and believe in yourself. And so I've worked for years on doing both of those things. And so
yes. Tell me, what is it that you've actually done? What are the practices that you've used to connect with yourself in a deep way that you could feel this confidence that you know yourself?
I love how you put that, because connect with yourself. I really think that's like just such a good foundation. So what I've done, and actually I've done it very consistently for the last 5 years, is affirmations. But what I did 5 years ago looks really different than what I'm doing today. And I kid you not, I've done pretty much daily affirmations almost every day without fail for the last 5 years. I am very serious about that. But 5 years ago, what I did was, I was learning more and more about law of attraction. So my mindset had more to do with just like attracting how I wanted to feel. So it was more to just, and I don't think I fully understood what affirmations meant at the time, if that makes sense. So I would say I am strong, I am confident, I am courageous, and I would just say it, and I'd be done, and I'd say it every day, and I think it definitely helped. But it wasn't until probably a couple of years ago that I just, my affirmations have evolved, and I've learned how important it is to put your hand on your heart, get very heart centered, and like you just said, connected to yourself. And again, going back to that belief, not just saying the words, because you can say them with no meaning behind it, and it really won't mean the same thing as if you have a thought and you drop into your heart, and then that thought kind of manifests into an actual belief for yourself. And so that's really what I've been working on in the last couple of years, is actually having that belief behind the words. And so once I started doing things that maybe centered me more with my heart and connected me more to my heart and my belief, that's when I really kind of started seeing a difference. And I know we're not talking about scarcity data today, but just as an example, I've kind of lived with a fear of scarcity for a really long time. And it was when I started just saying with full belief, I am abundant, life is abundant, you know, my family is abundant. And I don't mean just abundant, I don't mean financially, but just in all ways, love, health, friendship, relationship, all sorts of abundance in this life. And the world is abundant. We don't see it sometimes. So sorry, I went on and on about that, but
No, this is an important point. What I'm getting from this is that you started with affirmations in a sort of a mental way.
mm-hmm.
And you went through that practice of just doing it. It's sort of like you just did it, right?
Right.
And then you began to maybe live into it, began to feel it more in your body, and particularly locating it, noticing that maybe your heart actually felt really good when you said some of the things. But is that true for you? And it became more of an embodied reality, that was the transition there.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. And yes, definitely. And then also, I kind of forgot, it sort of evolved as well into me actually as if I was speaking to me. So, Laurie, so with my hand over my heart, Laurie, you are abundant, you are capable, you are worthy, you are powerful, you are courageous, whatever I need it. You are healthy. So saying it in like third person, and then also I say it as myself, I am. I kind of go back and forth, but I do it both ways pretty much each day.
Beautiful. In that, what I'm getting is that there's a part of you that's the compassionate, wise woman that knows you to be that radiant one. And there's also another part of you that is sort of doubting and maybe faking it a little bit. But what I hear is that eventually the one that had the bigger voice, because it was the deeper, truer voice, was the one that felt most comfortable. And so it began to dominate for you.
Yes, I like how you put that. That's a great way to put it. Yes, more powerful voice became more dominant, and then the belief is just there. And
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
yes, and it's that kind of belief that helps, what helped me be able to do this summit that I wanted to do. Um, just to have that courage and that belief in myself to do it. Sometimes you just have to believe in yourself.
So this was a growth, well, and I'm saying growth because it was outside of your comfort zone, outside maybe of your lived experience to do something like this.
Right. Yes, that is true. I had done interviews before, but never had put, put something like an actual summit, telesummit together, or, reached out to speakers. And yes, definitely out of my comfort zone.
So was there some place in there that you noticed that resentment was getting in the way of what you knew yourself to be or that you wanted to do? Tell us something about that, can you?
Yes. So let's see. I would say resentment probably was something that I didn't realize I was holding on to, and that, um, how it showed up in my life was, and again, this is something I didn't realize until more recently, where I continue to do work on myself, and I would say, I realized that, resentment was showing up by, anger, putting walls
Mm,
up,
mm.
avoiding, hiding, um, not being present in, with relationships. And so I don't think I realized that I know I didn't realize I was doing all of that. And then slowly but surely it was brought to my attention by, by coaches, and, just the more work I did, the more I realized it. So one thing I learned, and something else you had asked me about, how I practice radiant health, and something else that I do that helps me, work through resentment, because I was tending to put blame on other people and not taking responsibility, for my behavior and my actions. So I was how do you say that? There's a saying. It,
Sabotaging yourself?
well, that, yes, I was definitely self-sabotaging.
I'm
I,
only saying that because I'm relating to this so much. This is why I'm here, because I really want to know what to do about this. Because I know I personally have resentment. It's kind of maybe small, it sits over in the corner, but then it shows its ugly face in the most inconvenient times. And it doesn't feel good because I can feel my radiance is shutting down then. And I have a feeling that I'm not so unlike many other humans and other people that are watching this. So I'm taking notes here. This is really important. So then what other things did you do to deal with this resentment that you were beginning to be aware of?
I think honestly the most important thing I did, and it was a huge epiphany when I first realized this. It was a couple of years ago, and I was working on self-sabotaging myself. And one of the things that I realized was exactly that I was blaming other people for my situation, and I needed to take responsibility and really own up to my part in it. And that was a huge epiphany for me. Yeah, it is. It really, it's like a slap in the face, a real slap in the face. And it's hard to look at yourself like that, because you've allowed to blame yourself, to blame others for so long. And you just, you naturally think that it's on them and it's not on, me. And
Could be
so,
me.
yeah. So that was huge. And so moving forward from that point, I really work hard at taking responsibility for my own actions, not counting on anyone else for what I want to happen in my life. And that doesn't mean to say, it sounds like I'm saying, I have to do it all on my own and I can't count on
No.
anyone. Because that's not what I mean. I just mean that I'm responsible for my behavior throughout the day. I'm responsible for what goes on. And so that is actually something else that I do daily is, or I shouldn't say that. I try to. I'm not so good at this, but I really try to set the intention of the day um, to be in a peaceful place, a peaceful state of mind, in an ease, a flow. And I find that that really helps me because if I'm feeling frustrated or anger or even hurt, I can go back to that intention that I set for the day. I can go back to it, and I can. It just brings me to a loving place. Which, going back to radiant health, I really feel like to be radiant. Um, I don't mean you, but like for me, I need to be a loving, authentic, generous person. And so when I feel that anger or I feel that hurt or whatever, what helps me is to put myself back in that place and remind myself what my intention was for the day, and to remind myself my part in it, and that how I need to show up to to make my day good.
Wow. Laurie, I'm hearing a lot of personal responsibility without the blame, shame, and guilt.
Yes.
And I know for myself and for many people that that gets in there. And it's very hard to love ourselves when we're feeling the blame, shame, and the guilt.
It is.
And I also see that it's because you did a lot of work through the affirmations and whatever else you've been doing for the last 20, 25 years, right? In order to get you to a place where you were strong enough inside yourself and you had a deep enough connection inside with your higher, good, compassionate self,
Yeah.
that you could then take on the responsibility of seeing how you have been a partner in creating your experience.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
And so it's a bit sequential there. Maybe we can't do that right out of the box.
I would agree with that. You're right, because you need to, yeah, you need to have compassionate love for yourself. Going back to that, know your value, know your worth, belief in yourself. It all starts there, because if you have that inside of you, then yes, you can see your responsibility.
Well, so then how have you, I mean, we can see how you've grown in this process over a period of time. What has this allowed you to do and to be that you might not have known you could do 10 years ago?
Oh, you know, that's a good question. I think honestly, where I see how it's changed for me to show up for myself is definitely that self-love, and putting myself first in a lot of ways. And that's not a selfish statement. I think we all need to put ourselves first a lot more than we do. And I also just showing up for myself, and in doing that, I then show up for my family and my relationships. It's so true. It's like I'm more present for them because I'm more self-aware, and I'm aware when I'm hiding and avoiding and not being present. So I'm able to really make that connection and make it happen. But I couldn't do that, I don't think, without that self-love and that compassion for myself. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I'm remembering Lisa Nichols that I heard one time, who's a great character. She's a very wise woman.
I like her.
And yeah, and she said, I've learned that I only give from the overflow of my cup that flows into my saucer. If I flow out of the cup, if I give out of my cup, then I'm depleting myself. And in the end, nobody really benefits from that. And so keeping that cup overflowing is my job. And that, I think, is actually what I'm hearing you also connecting to your radiance. And when you feel radiantly healthy. So keeping yourself filled up and nourished in all of these ways is really important to being able to be generous. yourself. And I see you as being incredibly generous and powerful in the fact that you've created this summit, Laurie, where
Oh,
you've invited so many of us in and created this wonderful playground for us.
oh,
And
thank you.
that, so I want to ask you, is that one of the ways that you've shown up to do what you said you wanted to do, is to help women and men to be able to be more of their selves that they know that they can be?
Yes, I would absolutely say that. And that quote from Lisa Nichols is such a good quote. And I actually now I remember that I've heard that before, and it's so true. It's like putting the oxygen mask on first, because you really need to. And I so agree with that. And I for years wasn't putting my oxygen mask on first, and then that can create resentment. And and so it's so true. You just fill fill your cup first, and then use the overflow for that loving, authentic generosity. And thank you. I'm glad you see me as generous, because, and when I say generous, and I know you know this too, it's not just about like, charitable donations or something like that, but it's just generous of spirit and time if you have it, but of course filling your cup first. So that definitely, to answer your question, definitely this summit is a new way of showing up for myself. And thought of, I wouldn't have put the two together even a year ago, to be honest.
So this is modeling for all of us that when you put yourself in your circle of care,
Mm,
right, rather than just, I'm here to take care of everybody else, but you don't put yourself in there,
right.
then that never really works. And so what you've done is put yourself in the circle of care and then expanded your circle of care by inviting all of us to come in and join you. And now hopefully it will come back and multiply, as you're saying here. I'm just wondering, are there some other things that you've done to remove this resentment? Because you've modeled for us what you've already done. What more can you say about that?
You know, there's a few things that I do, but I have to. There's a couple things that I'll mention, and one can be hard, especially if you're in the middle of frustration or anger or hurt, so resentment. But one thing I do that has really helped me is seek to understand the other side. And it's not always possible to understand the other side, but if you seek to understand, then you've put yourself back in that intention that you set for the day. Or I should talk about myself, that I've set for the day. If I seek to understand the other side, then I'm putting myself back in that loving, authentic, generous state of mind. And so that just naturally puts me in a place where I can be loving and authentic and generous, and it changes the it just shifts it, and I'm not saying it's perfect, and I'm not saying that it's going to help it 100%, but it just, because that person you're talking to, you don't necessarily know where they're coming from, because they might be having a painful day, a frustrating day. They might be dealing with something, you know that happened yesterday or whatever. But it kind of just gives me pause to not to not judge, because I think resentment can come from judgment. And so it just gives an opportunity um, to be open and heart-centered. And I'll give you an example. I work at a place where sometimes I talk to customers, and sometimes these customers that come in, they aren't always happy. And so it really just helps me to try to seek to understand where they're coming from, because you just don't know what somebody's going through for their day. They might be an absolutely wonderful, beautiful, giving person, but if they happen to be having a really bad day, it might just come across as something else. And so rather than judge them or um, resent them for their behavior, I just try to seek to understand the other side. So that's kind of my long explanation on that one.
Beautiful. I can see that that's not always easy to do. So there's probably some other things that you do to keep yourself totally full. I'm wondering if there's some body work or something that you might do that you could tell us about.
Sure. Uh, yes, when you're feeling that, that frustration or resentment, just call it, definitely breathing, taking those deep breaths and just slowing down, like just centering yourself. And um, I think that really helps me a lot is instead of getting caught up in the emotional feeling of the moment, to just really like slow down, center myself, and kind of breathe through it, like give myself, not, I guess, I don't know, I guess I want to call it a timeout. I don't know if that's a good description, but yeah, just like really try not to get caught up in the emotions and the drama of whatever's going on, and
Mhm.
just like take a step back, breathe through it, and really get kind of centered, heart centered, um, before moving forward with whatever that looks like, whether it's talking to the person or um, sending an email, whatever that looks like. Really take a step back and get heart centered and not get caught up in the drama and the emotions of it all, because that can be
Yes.
tough to do.
Yes, there's I'm wondering if you notice that there's like a liminal moment, that moment that isn't here and it isn't there. There's just like this tiny space. And in that space, you may have a choice. You may recognize that you have a choice. And when you slipped on the banana peel as you're walking down the same street for the 100th time, then eventually I've been able to notice a little bit more. Oh, I'm about to slip. I have a choice. Don't put your foot down on that banana peel because you're going to slip, and that you can actually make a different choice. But I know that that takes a certain amount of kind of grounding inside yourself. I'm wondering, have you done any work like with chakras or
Oh,
any kind of energy work or something like that also?
yes, that's true. I have, and I've been doing that for about a year as well, and that has made a really huge difference in me. Working with my chakras, I do that almost every day. And in fact, I was going to do it before this interview, and time got away from me. but but one thing I found was that, and something I didn't realize was that, and I believe so much in energy, that we all have our energy, but I didn't realize how stuck my energy was, like stuck. And when I started working on my energy, almost a year ago, not quite, things just really changed for me. So it's definitely a combination of the affirmations, the energy work that I do, and just taking responsibility for my actions.
That's a powerful formula right there, you know.
It's
And
working too, I have to say.
well, I can see it in your face. I mean,
Oh,
you're really glowing right now. And it's
oh,
that your words are resonant and consistent with what I see in you and how you're presenting. It's a lovely embodiment of what you're saying.
oh, thank you. Thank you.
And
I
I'm not just saying that because I'm the host here and you're the guest, because it's actually very true. And I'm wondering, is there anything? I see the impact that you've been able to make because you have created these foundational pieces for yourself and you built on those, that you've been able to do so much for others. That is also then probably joyful to you to be able to do that without feeling that you're depleting yourself or that you're falling into the old self-sabotage habits.
yes, I agree. Like I have this, I can't explain it, but some sort of calling to help others, to serve others, and this summit has been such a joy for me, and empowering too. I want to say that it's been very empowering, and I just feel like it has lifted me up. Like in trying to help and serve others, I feel like completely lifted myself from doing it. It's been an amazing experience.
What a gorgeous it's kind of the way that I know that life is meant to be, that it's in the giving, that there's the receiving, and that it's just this wonderful, enormous circle that actually can expand. And I see that you've been expanding that circle from maybe a close circle of friends, or maybe starting with your family, and then it was to close circle of friends, and now it's expanded out. And I'm certainly excited to be able to be part of this in some way, and to see where this goes for you and to follow you. But before we go there, I'm wondering, is there anything that you might want to tell our listeners as far as maybe specific actionable step that they could take so that they could be able to create the radiant health by removing the resentment, which is not a very radiant habit?
No, it's not. It absolutely, I completely agree with you. And it really depletes you. Like, it takes energy to be resentful. And yeah, and it's negative energy. It's not like it's positive energy. So for me, I would start with the affirmations, and it can be something, just saying, I am a loving, I'll just use mine. I am a loving, authentic, generous, and you woman or man. You can just start with that, because just saying that you're loving, that puts that out there. And I do believe, especially if you believe it as you say it and you put your hand on your heart, that it really can shift your mindset and kind of put you more in that loving mode, loving, giving mode, as opposed to kind of a resentful and victim kind of mode, self-sabotage mode. Because I feel like when I'm self-sabotaging and I'm blaming, I'm in a very much kind of a victim mindset. And for me, that's like so important to get out of. So I would start with affirmations, and it can be anything, like drop into your heart and really just feel like, what do you need? What do you need to make yourself feel loved, feel worthy, feel good? Whatever it is, just drop into your heart. And that's something else I do. I listen to my intuition. I let my intuition guide me a lot. So if you can drop into your heart and just really sit with it and just hear what your intuition is guiding you to ask for from from your higher power, from the universe, whatever that is for you. Just sit back and listen and hear that, and ask for it, and I truly believe it will be given. um, so the affirmations, and then just another actionable step I would say is the next time you are upset or frustrated or resentful towards somebody, almost put yourself in as an outside individual looking in. And as you seek to understand the other side, the other person's side, also look at your part in it. Is there any possibility that you may have created part of the situation? And it's hard to look at that, but be open to it, and just see what comes up for you. I think those are, I think probably for me, the most important steps. And yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Those are really good. And I know that some of the other speakers in the summit spoke about the value in working with chakras, working with your intuition, working with mindsets. So you've really gathered a wonderful group here that we can use and have that feeling of abundance. Now,
Yeah.
and speaking of abundance, I know that you said that there is a free gift that you'd like to be able to offer to the listeners. And I wonder if you might tell us about that now.
Sure. Yes. So in terms of resentment, if you're feeling stuck and resentful, and you have blocks up and you can't move past them, I would love to just chat with you and tell you a little bit more about what I've done and what has helped me get through my blocks, because I truly I truly understand what it what it feels like to have those walls up and to not be able to get through them. And so I would love to just, if you want to do a deep dive, with me. We can talk about it and see if I can help you figure out what's creating those blocks and how to get past those blocks. So yeah, so I would love to be able to, like I said, I have this calling. I feel like I really just want to help people, so that I've been working on myself since the early 90s. So I would love to be able to help somebody so that they don't have to spend as many decades as I have to
Yes.
to help myself.
Yes, there must be a faster way. Like, we don't need to do everything with snail mail now. We can do it more instantaneously. And so I think
Right.
that's true in our personal growth. How would they connect with you, Laurie?
Good question. So I will actually send the email out for this interview, and in that interview, I will put that in there. I think that's a great idea. Thanks,
Okay.
Anna. I will do.
Okay, wonderful. I feel like we've been on a very quick but very deep dive journey here.
I do
And
too.
I'm so grateful that you've been able um, to pull out so much from your own experience and give us kind of a guided tour. I'm wondering if there's anything else that you might like to share before we wrap up here, something that something I might have missed or that is still kind of burning for you to put more focus on.
You know, the only thing well, a couple things. But I want to just mention something that I haven't mentioned, but I think it's important, and it's something that I've learned about myself again, is to not get caught in your stories. And what I mean by that is I've always thought of myself as a really detail-oriented person, and so I'll give you all the details, like all of them, to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, can she be done? But I've learned that, and I do still think I'm a detail-oriented person, but I've learned that a lot of my storytelling is me justifying to you what I'm trying to get across. And it's really what it comes down to, is I'm just justifying. So going back to taking responsibility for my own actions, I've learned that the more I do that, the less I actually have to justify. So does that make sense?
Oh, yes, it makes total sense. And in fact, I'm feeling like kind of on a hot seat right now that like, oh, yeah, I can see how that connects, that the storytelling, if you really look at it, can be with a deeper intention of trying to put responsibility someplace else besides sitting with me.
Right.
A beautiful, beautiful realization.
Yeah. And that's another one that hurts a little bit. It's kind of hard. It's hard to
Yes, this
realize.
is where we need to have our friends around us to remind us that, yeah, that's true. And you're still a wonderful, good, deserving person,
Yes.
that you are a work in progress, right?
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And speaking of work in progress, so that was just the last thing I was going to mention, is this last thing about having belief in yourself. And we've talked about it. And I know some people say, do it messy. I kind of like do it dirty, because it just rings well with me. But like this summit, I sent a couple of emails out late, and but it's okay. Like, it's okay, because just be your loving, authentic self, and do it dirty. It's better to try it and maybe not do it perfect than to not try it at all, in my opinion. So just believe in yourself and know that you can do whatever you put your mind to. Just, it starts in here.
Thank you, Laurie, very much for this incredible walk with you in your journey to release the resentment so that you can create radiant health. You've modeled for us in such a tangible and exquisite way. I'm just grateful to you. Thank you very, very much. And thank you to all those that are participating as observers and audience. And I'm sure that you'll appreciate any comments that they want to give to you. So thank you, Laurie. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, Anna, thank you. You ended it so beautifully. Like, I kind of hate to say anything now, but first of all, thank you so much you've been just honestly such a treasure to me, and just so the viewer knows, like we didn't have, you know, a relationship before this started, and like I feel so blessed to know you and to have you in my life. And so I want to thank you for, you know, offering to interview me and to be interested in what I had to say. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. And you know, thank you, and thank you to the viewers. Again, Anna said it so beautifully, but I just want to say thank you for spending these days, you know, with all of us, the speakers and myself. And I just really appreciate you taking time for yourself and being here. Um, the free access ended on March 31st. However, I have had some inquiries about, you know, can we still have access to the bundles of interviews? And yes, I'm going to put it out on the or the email today. And there will be access, and I'll give information about that and how that's going to work. It'll be lifetime access. And again, if you want to do a deep dive with me regarding resentment, I would love to chat with you. So thank you, and everyone have a good day.